So, I didn't like Toy Story 4. I know everyone who's following my YouTube channel came here for customizing or doll collecting, but nope, you're gonna get a shitty film review. Today, right now. Um, so I've watched Toy Story 4 three times in theaters. First time I watched it one day before it was meant to officially come out because of advanced screenings and stuff. And I left that theater like completely upset. I was gonna be like, "Rah, it ruined everything." Rah. Second time I watched it, it was because someone was like, "Okay, let's watch a movie," and I was like, I don't want to watch anything else that's out right now. I don't want to watch the live action movies. I don't want to watch like Marvel. So I was trapped. I was trapped into watching it. And the second time I watched it, I was like, okay, now that I've had time to process, the whole story and stuff, okay, I can turn my brain off a little bit for this. Third time I watched it, my friend was like, I haven't seen Toy Story 4 yet. And I'm like, I need to talk about this. So, yeah, I've watched it three times in theaters now. So, I think I've been able to temper my opinion on it a bit more than just, it is not a good Toy Story film. Because it's a competent film. It's very much a competent film. But when you go to Pixar, you don't expect competent films. You expect films that go up there, because especially for the Toy Story trilogy, because that's what everyone's calling it, the trilogy. The quality has always been up there, and I know everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, I thought Toy Story 3 was the perfect ending. Rah rah. Toy Story 4 was, it's unneeded." And but the thing is, before the movie came out, I was so excited. I was so hyped because the thing is that like every Toy Story film, every sequel that has come out afterward has never been actively planned for it. Like the sequels are good because they actually acknowledge the films that have come before it, but it's never been kind of like, oh, this is we're gonna play this a long haul. We have this whole set storyline that we want to be played out. No, it's just like I acknowledge every single Toy Story sequel has been created because of extenuating circumstances and stuff. But so when people say like, "Oh, Toy Story 3 was a perfect ending," rah rah, it's like I was just excited because I like these characters. I like the world that Pixar's built, and I've always had a place in my heart for it. So that's the kind of expectation I went into the film going to. I'm going to be like, "Oh, okay, so this is something that's something with the characters, something with really good writing, really good character build up, a good story arc." But those weren't the things that Pixar delivered in on us. And that's why I think I did not like it. And I still don't like it, but I don't hate it. So if anyone has any different opinions to me, I'm just, this is my opinion. Like, the film's already made a lot of money. It's successful. Pixar's already has a whole bunch of shit lined up on its, on Disney streaming channels, so there's going to be even more Toy Story content. So, blah, 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 blah. So, this is just me venting out my frustrations with the film. So, yeah. I'm going to start off with why I really love the original Toy Story films and why I keep comparing that to the new film. So, of course, spoilers. Do so I'm just gonna be talking pretty casually about this. I'm not gonna try to surmise everything. Either you've already watched the films, so you've formed your own opinion, or that or none of this is gonna make any sense to anyone. But this is gonna be from my perspective. So I think the reason why Toy Story 2, and Toy Story 3 has always been loved by a lot of people is that these are really well-made films, not just because of visuals, not because of just the humor, not just because, it appealed to adults. These are just really well-made films from a story perspective. These are really well-made films from a character perspective. You get good character arcs, you get good comedy beats, you get good balanced elements of everything put into one kind of film. And that's what's so frustrating with Toy Story 4, is that it does not really go with all does not live to that kind of quality standard that the first three films have. So, of course, everyone loves Toy Story 1 and 2, and they think Toy Story 3 is a really good send-off. And for me, it's just like, Toy Story 2 will always be my favorite, because because Toy Story 2, it doesn't waste any time trying to reintroduce the characters to you. It doesn't waste any time. It knows that you love the characters from Toy Story 1. But then, it pushes all of its expectations into just perfecting a really fun adventure film while also exploring the emotional side of things. And, of course, Toy Story 1 is a good film, but every time I watch it now, it's just I can't watch it. Because even though I love to see how Woody has grown into a different character by the end of the film, I can't watch Toy Story 1, with the events leading up to it. It just stresses me out too much. I really like Toy Story 2 because it has built so much from a strong foundation of Toy Story 1. And it's very tightly plotted. Even though if you put a time on all the character appearances that aren't just Woody and Jesse and Buzz, the other characters would just be in 10, 20 minutes. That's because it's so tightly plotted. Every character that has a speaking role always serves a dual purpose, even if it's for comedy. And yeah. And that's why I really like Toy Story 2. It's so emotional. It's able to build on so much of Toy Story 1 while taking a new direction, which a lot of sequels still don't do, because a lot of people are so scared of having really stagnant characters, and I think the success is based on characters people think, oh, I just want to see these characters go through the same thing again. No. That's what Toy Story 2 does so well. It knows that characters have to grow and have to be different. And with Toy Story 3, the reason why I like that, even though I can only watch it a handful of times because it's so fucking stressful. It's such a stressful film to watch. Because everyone talks about the scene where they're almost dying in the incinerator scene. But no one talks about how much it echoes real life atrocities. No one talks about how uncomfortable it is watching Buzz basically go through a torture scene. No one talks about how stressful the ride from the daycare to the dump is, with the truck constantly almost killing them. No one talks about that, because Toy Story 3 is such a stressful film. But I think everyone loves Toy Story 3 because it utilized its cast so well. It gave it gave really strong character arcs to our main characters, and and the send-off, the payoff was so good. Everyone was so happy and satisfied that's why Toy Story 3 is really beloved. But from what I've seen, I don't think anyone's really watched Toy Story 3 and really analyzed it since it first came out. Because every time someone talks about Toy Story 3, they're always oh, what's that detail in Toy Story 3? And then they always get it wrong. Okay. And with that, it's just so that was the basis for how I kind of went into Toy Story 4, because because the way that Pixar talked about it and the kind of information I gave myself looking into in Toy Story 4 leading up to it was very much they were very adamant about oh, we wanted to retain the happy ending of Toy Story 3. We kind of want to do that. So I'm okay. So I better check out the Toy Story shorts, which I heavily recommend. I heavily recommend the Toy Story shorts. Because they're very episodic, kind of frivolous adventures, but the thing is everyone loves these characters. That's what they do, And I think that's the strength of Toy Story as a whole. It's just even if you can predict the plot lines, even if you get kind of bored by everything, just spending time with these characters is a strong point for Pixar. So that's the kind of expectation I went into Toy Story 4. I went into it expecting okay, so if this isn't going to undo the events of Toy Story 3, okay, I'll be very happy with that. I'll be very happy that we get strong, tightly plotted character arcs where the characters change and grow in a way that feels authentic and feels it's good for the audience. But oh, okay, major spoiler. Like, even though I know you already know the spoilers, the fact that Woody leaves Bonnie, he leaves Buzz, he leaves all the toys to be a lost toy's bow. It completely rubs me the wrong way. It rubs me the wrong way because the main thing with Woody the main thing with Andy giving up Woody to Bonnie wasn't that like, oh, Andy's growing up or rah rah. The important thing that I think everyone liked about Andy giving up Woody was so Woody would be able to stay with his family that they've stated over and over and over in Toy Story 3. That they're family and they work best when they're together. And that's something that's also kind of stated in Toy Story 2 and then and kind of brought up in Toy Story 1, but that's kind of, yeah. So having Woody go off with Bo Peep at the end, it does not fit with what Toy Story 3 really emphasized. And it's really painful as well because Woody has not spent any time with characters that we actively loved from Toy Story 3. And, and also the previous Toy Stories before that, because it's mostly been a Bo and Woody, Bo Peep and Woody story, which should have been fine, but this dramatically changes a lot of things about how you go back and watch Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, about how Woody says, the best thing is being with my family, being with my friends. And so, it just... So my biggest issue with Toy Story 4 is that, you can really tell it's built on the graveyard of other scripts that had to be eviscerated because of all the creative differences, all the issues that's happening with, at Pixar, and it really shows how sloppy it is, because there's a lot of elements that you can tell that people really precious about, but they kept it in, even to the detriment of the film's writing quality. Because in one previous script, Bo Peep was meant to be the leader of a bunch of misfit toys that didn't get adopted or whatever in the antique store, and that's kind of hinted at, but it feels like in the final film, the Pixar is oh, we've already rendered the entire antique store, we can't just get rid of it, rah. Well, we already have all of these misfit toys, better make a scene with them. And then kind of do a tenuous link to it using Duke Kaboom. That's how it felt to me. It felt to me that they were very precious about holding on to that aspect of the previous script to the detriment of it. And it's just it felt like they've had so many different elements, and it would have made sense for Bo Peep to act certain ways if they kept the script from previous, kept the motivations of the thing. But there's just been so many rewrites, it's just... But they've done it in such ways that they've held onto these elements without it really justifying why it exists in the final product. It's just, they feel very precious about it. Because Bo Peep's, whole thing about being oh, I'm an independent, strong, lost toy, which is, which I know it's meant to serve as a character foil to Woody, and also as a sort of character foil to Gabby's arc, but it really did feel like Bo Peep was a stagnant character. She never, it felt like Bo Peep was only written there to challenge Woody's worldview. It never felt like Woody challenged Bo Peep's worldview at all, because it would have been such an interesting film if Woody coming back to challenge Bo Peep's way of life. Because Bo Peep in the final product is very much oh, I'm very happy with who I am, I've changed, rah, I don't have the old life anymore, that's behind me. And it would have been really interesting to have Woody come back into her life and to show her just oh, there are attachments, there are sentiments that I really do miss being a toy of another child, or to actually like actively challenge her being a lost toy. Even if ultimately Woody chooses to go off with her, it would have been nice to have Woody make Bo Peep like change in a character arc kind of way, but Bo Peep in Toy Story 4 has just felt really stagnant as a character. And it's a little frustrating because this is meant to be a Pixar Toy Story film. It's not meant to be just just an adequate kids family friendly film. And that's what's really frustrating because and with Woody's perspective, it's just like it never really felt like he was really going to be like, oh, do I choose between being a lost toy? Do I choose between having an owner? Am I happy with this kind of purpose? Even though I've already completed my purpose and I've done so much more than a lot of other toys have been able to. Because Andy is very much a special case for Woody. Like, even in the universe, because like kids discard toys so frequently, like kids lose toys get damaged, but Woody is such an exception to all of that. And still, he's been given a second chance. He's basically been given reincarnation in the collection of another child. But even then, like, they try to paint this as a, like, oh no, Woody's really upset, or Woody's just, like, really at odds with it. But it always felt really inauthentic. It felt like the writers put the characters to act that way just so they can serve a story. It never felt organic to the character themselves. Especially with the way that like Woody has developed since the first Toy Story. And so like it felt so odd to have that kind of ending where Woody's like, I choose to be a lost toy with Bo Peep because I'm happy finding a new purpose in my life. But he never really was at odds with that. He was just kind of like, oh, for some reason, like Woody is targeted specifically to be left in the closet. Even though, it would have made a bit more sense if like Woody was like left in the closet with a couple of other toys, or like if Woody was left behind when everyone else went on a road trip, but then Woody decided to sneak in on the RV just so he could keep an eye in on Forky. But it's just kind of like, it felt like the writers were like, oh, okay, Bonnie doesn't care about Woody anymore, but they never really commit to showing that. Which is really, really, really frustrating. It's just kind of like, oh, Woody feels out of place because the writers wrote it that way, instead of like organically, or at least trying to like justify it a bit more in the story. So, because it's just so frustrating, because they paint Woody trying to save Forky as a kind of like, oh, he's really obsessed with Bonnie. He's trying to be like, he's trying to hold on to his purpose. But no. It's because Woody has always been loyal, not just to his owner, but to the toys around him. Because like in the previous films, he's always been there to like try to save other toys. Like even in the prologue, he was trying to save RC, even though RC could have been easily just a lost toy due to circumstance. Like he always tried to save other toys because he knew his owner would want those toys in their life. So it's so frustrating that like to try to paint Woody trying to save Forky as something really negative, or something where it's just like, oh, Woody's just trying to hold on to the past, he's trying to relive his glory days. It's like, it's really frustrating in that regard, because it feels so inauthentic to the story and characters. Okay, and another thing. Everyone else is saying they liked the comedy in this film. Everyone's like, oh yeah, it's funny, haha. Like, but like a lot of the jokes really did not land for me, and when they did, they always kind of tried to repeat it, which is kind of like, because like one of the main comedy relief characters, like the Keenan and Peele characters, they first do the kind of like, oh, let's attack the owner joke skit, which, okay, that was pretty funny the first time, but then they try to do it like 3 more times after that, which I'm just kind of like, okay, well, I already know what the punchline is, but I guess it's meant to be absurd and stuff. And also with like Buzz, it's just, ugh. I just did not like what they did with Buzz's character. And it's not because of like, oh, they dumbed him down, or like, oh, it's just for comedy and stuff. It's just, I think I think everyone's like, oh, Buzz is a lot of development, but that's the thing. In Toy Story 1, that's his entire story arc. And so I don't think Pixar really knows what to do with his character since then, because the second movie is just kind of like, okay, he's kind of he's kind of shoved into a fridge while his double is acting crazy. And then like the third one, oh, okay, the Buzz that we know and love is just being lobotomized, essentially. And so we're just following a different Buzz up until he comes back for like, the final scene. But then like it's so weird. It is so odd that in Toy Story 4 that the Buzz going like, oh, okay, what's my inner voice? Like, rah, rah. That's just him. Like, Buzz doesn't have a defect. Buzz doesn't run into, like, a different Buzz. Like, Buzz doesn't get brain damaged, or, like... It's just Buzz. It's just Buzz being Buzz Lightyear for listening to his voice box despite being alive for, like in-universe, at least 10 years, and not knowing what a conscience is. It's such an odd concept, because it just does not feel authentic to Buzz's character. Like, in the previous films, Buzz is basically the secondary most competent character out of the entire gang. Like, he's the most athletic, he's the most smart, he's the most well-rounded, he's the most secure in his position as a toy. So I think that's why a lot of people get really upset when they look at Buzz's characterization in Toy Story 4. And it's just like, why is Buzz doing this? It's so odd. And another frustrating thing is that, like, the inner voice thing is just, it's meant to be played off for comedy, but it feels very heavily like bad writing, because a lot of the reasons why they need to get Buzz from point A to point B is just because he listens to his voice box. Like, it's like, okay, I don't know where Woody is. How do I get to the highway? He just listens to his voice box. And it's like, oh, what do I do now? And then he looks up to see, oh, there's Woody and Bo Peep. It's like, well, I want to go with Woody and support him when he confronts Gabby. But then his voice box is like, no, you have to, like, fuck off home because plot reasons. And Buzz is just like, oh, I guess because I have to listen to my voice box. Listening to my voice box. Ugh, that should have been a Randy Newman song. But yeah, that's why it's so frustrating, because even though it was kind of played off for comedy, it was just there so the writers could place Buzz in the right place at the right time without them actually putting in the hard work of writing, organically writing him into the scene. It just felt like, oh, we need a reason for Buzz to be here. It's so frustrating. It's utterly frustrating watching that from when, like, the jokes don't land for me. It's just kind of like, well, I guess Buzz did just have to look up because he listened to his voice box, because he needed to see Woody and Bo Peep. It wasn't, yeah. Ugh. Ugh. And that's not even getting into Gabby Gabby. I know everyone else is like saying like, oh boy, a Pixar villain that's not a twist villain, or oh boy, she gets a redemption arc, but I think the thing that's frustrating for me, one thing that's really frustrating for me, is that like Gabby Gabby is meant to be another foil to Woody and to Bo Peep, because Gabby, like, embodies, like, Woody's worst fears about not being played with anymore. She embodies, like, the kind of isolation and just, like, being seen as defective and old because she is, like, the same age as him, essentially. But she also, like, embodies, like, Bo Peep's, like, independence and the lack of child attached to her, and And it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating that that the way her character arc ends is like her character. It's so frustrating because the character arc begins with like, oh, I was I was created imperfectly, and no one will ever love me because I am horribly imperfect. And then her entire character, all of her problems is solved because the one flaw that is wrong with her is like fixed due to her manipulation. And I know Jenny Nicholson said this, but like the fact that like her voice box is instrumental to being adopted by a new child is just so frustrating. Because like her character arc should have been a one of discovery. Like, okay, I don't need a voice box to be loved. Like, I think her character arc should have been resolved with either her voice box not being fixed at all, because like she did some of the worst things in the film because she wanted to get Woody's voice box, and she's rewarded for it. She is rewarded for it, and it's frustrating. Because if she was going to get adopted by a child, she should have had the defective voice box, and either that would have played no factor in the child loving her, or it would have been a factor in the child adopting her, because either the child had a speech impediment, or the child had a hearing disability. But it's just watching Gabby's story, especially if you watch it with a slant of her watching it with it as an allegory to being born with a disability. It's so frustrating because she had to be fixed to get what she wanted, which I don't think that's. And the way she went about it, like her final speech to Woody, where she's like, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice to be loved by a child like you were with Annie?" It's like she only got that because of the way she manipulated it out of Forky, and the way that she kept him hostage, and the way that Woody got horribly mangled by all of these events, and it's frustrating because I liked Gabby. I really liked Gabby. I really thought that, okay, they made her sympathetic, but the way they resolved and redeemed her, just felt so inauthentic and really, really frustrating. And it's just, and of course, I am frustrated that Jesse and none of the other characters that we grew to love was involved at all, because they had the potential to fit into this film to work like that, because the reason why I think everyone really, really holds Toy Story 3 to a high standard wasn't just because, oh, okay, these are the characters we know and love. They actively utilized every character on screen for that. So Toy Story 3 was basically an escape film, and so Toy Story 4 was basically a heist film, but so it was just so frustrating when, even though Don Rickles is dead, even though Slinky Dog's voice actor is dead, it's just, they could have used the other characters a lot more to help with Woody getting Forky out. But no. They had to bring in new characters that did not have a full arc that I fully liked at all, because and it's just I know at this point you're probably thinking oh, what does John think about Duke Kaboom? What does he think about Giggle McDimples? It's just kind of it's just they're okay, but they don't really have character arcs. It's just Giggle McDimples is basically Jiminy Cricket to Bo Peep's Pinocchio, but she really doesn't contribute much except to really vocalize Bo Peep's inner thought processes. And Duke Kaboom only had really 3 appearances, and it's just kind of okay, his first scene is just oh, okay, my introduction. These are my flaws which I can't overcome, second time we see him, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna attempt to do it, but then I fail. So then the third one's just like, okay, I really didn't know any, like nothing has really changed for me personally, like nothing. Everyone just gave me a really good pep talk, and therefore I did what I had to do. So, I mean, I guess because Keanu Reeves is such a charismatic actor and he's such a good comedy actor that people are able to excuse that. But for me, it's just like I don't think I think Toy Story 4 would have been a stronger film if they utilized the characters that we knew and loved instead of trying to bring in new characters and not really utilizing them much at all. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. But and there's just a lot more that I could go into, but I've already talked for like about half an hour. Okay. Just because I don't want to like just end this with being like, rah rah, this is such a bad film, blah 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 blah. I do have to say there are a lot of things I do like about this film. This film has shown that Pixar has just gone so far in their technology, and that even like 10 years ago, if you compared Toy Story 4 to Toy Story 3, the difference has just been such a big such a huge gap. It's such a big difference. And it's just, and it's just like everything's photorealistic. Like, even if you go back to Toy Story 3, like, if you watch it, it's just kind of like, well, the textures are there, but they still kind of look like Play-Doh. But these ones look photorealistic, and the raindrops and, like, the lighting, it's just like, it's really, really fantastic. Like, from a visual standpoint. That is why I went to watch Toy Story 4 3 times, even though I did not like the writing. Another thing is that, like, the animators have put so much expression, like, there's so much more subtle movements in the faces, like, a lot of scenes are a lot more quiet just because, oh, okay, like, the tilt of a face, like, or, like, you know, Bo Peep's, like, you know, like, eyes shifting just a tiny bit, like you can really feel the emotion in there. Like, I finally think that Pixar has really perfected their art form. Like visually, I do applaud the filmmakers for putting in the research for toy making. Like, if you look at all the toys, like, you can really see that they put in all the effort for it. Like, it's and, you know, and another thing is, like, I guess I liked the music. I mean, Randy Newman, you do you with your literal word music being like, I can't let you kill yourself because you're a fork who's loved by a girl. Yeah. I mean, that was pretty catchy. And also, like, I'm a cowboy, but I found my girlfriend. It's such a happy thing. Like, good on you for that, I guess. But overall, I just I just did not like Toy Story 4, but you know, like, there are worse things to be on the list than, like, list of Toy Story films, you know? Like, even if Toy Story 4 is one of my most disliked films, I am trapped forever in the nostalgia train of, you know, Pixar's crazy nostalgia ride. Hooray! So, yeah. Never expect another video from me, because I have really, really bad ways of starting any videos. So, see ya when I see ya. Okay, and since other people will probably be watching this video and saying, like, John, you're really, really not, you're a fake geek girl when you don't like Toy Story. It's like, well, here is my Toy Story collection that's mostly in scale. So, Gabby, Bo Peep, Jessie, Buzz, another Bo Peep, Woody, Bullseye, Bobby and Ken, Wheezy, Billy Golden Gruff, Slinky, Ham, Rex, Duke Kaboom, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head and their 3 children. So yeah, even if I didn't like Toy Story 4, I guess I was able to start my own Toy Story collection, so I guess thanks, Pixar.